Good Sunday afternoon. Welcome to one of my favorite TV shows, Connections with Kenyatta Collins. I'm your favorite host, Kenyatta Collins. I'm so thrilled that you decided to spend this time with me, tuned in to see all of the excitement in store. Coming up, you'll get a full scoop of conversation from a local spiritual leader from one of the city's historic Baptist church. And I just so happen to consider him my pastor. Plus, you'll see how this record shop continues to thrive in a world where music streaming is constantly growing. And for those of you that have an interest in home buying, listen up, because I have one of the best realtors on this side of heaven here to give you tips and information on the process of home buying. That and so much more when we continue right here on Connections with Kenyatta Collins.
Hello everyone, I'm Brandon Griffin, aka Mr. Grip.
I'm Bentley, the hip hop barber pole.
The hip hop barbershop offers the best haircuts.
We service ladies too, Grip.
Ladies, we can do your eyebrows and your cut as well.
We welcome walk-ins, but tell them about the online booking.
That's right, you can book an appointment online as well, or give us a call at 225-252-7773.
We know the flavor, neighbor.
Remember when vinyls and CDs were a thing? I sure do. And this treasure jewel has all of that and so much more. Take a look. Welcome to The Exchange, a music lover's paradise that specializes in selling vinyl, CDs, and so much more.
I try to have a little everything. DVDs, video games, books, t-shirts, art, vintage electronics, new electronics, you know. Try to have a little something for everybody and a little bit in every price range. I'm always surprised that people call and are still realizing that, you know, there's not a lot of places to buy music anymore, especially on a CD format. You got, several vinyl stores in town. Nobody's opening up CD stores.
The Exchange is owned by Mr. Victor Holliday, whose love for music is what led him to opening this unique shop.
I wanted a new avenue of creative endeavor somewhat. I used to be a hairstylist and I always liked music and just thought it was time to do something different.
Different indeed. The Exchange definitely has an atmosphere unlike any other.
I like to think I got a wide plethora of things, a little of everything and anything for everybody. I mean, jazz and blues is things I like, but you know, I got stuff like rap and R&B and local stuff, Cajun, brass bands, you name it.
To go that extra mile, Victor offers his customers a warranty with each purchase.
People are always leery of buying secondhand or used. I try to go the extra mile and be reasonable and understandable. I mean, if you got a product that you respect enough to put it on shelf, it should go without saying that you stand behind it.
When was the last time that you were in a store and were able to purchase a CD and a vinyl?
Whoever thought that, records would have made a comeback. If you know anything about audio, it's just, some people say they can't tell the difference between digital, so I guess they're deaf.
So how does this unique record store thrive in today's digital age of music?
Well, a true base to keep your store open would have to be people that actually enjoy music. If you're just buying something to sit it down and wait 30 years to see if you can, next week to see if you can sell it, it's kind of pretty lame for me. I mean, this is a great location. It's, right off of Government Street in Mid-City. Weekends. You'd be surprised. People, go home, pay those bills, and they have some money, and they pop up on Monday.
For Connections, I'm Kenyatta Collins.
My name is Joseph Dupard. I'm a realtor with Coldwell Banker One in the Baton Rouge area. Just want to talk to you briefly today about the real estate market and the need for you to get on in here to purchase a home, because now is a good time to buy. The interest rates are very good, in the probably the low to higher fives, like 4.9 to 5%, which is not bad. And the prices are moderate. There's a lot of good selection in terms of areas to live in. So now is a good time. Now procrastination could kind of mess with you a little bit too, because some people are a little afraid. Should I do it now, later? There are two things that might adversely affect you, and that is if rates start to go up on you and if prices start to go up on you, or both. So just keep in mind, that you need to go ahead and try to make a decision and make a move, and things normally have a way of working out. Now, I know many of you may be wondering, well, what does it take to purchase a home? What do I do? I never made the move before. Well, you need to have your credit, obviously, in the condition to purchase. In terms of where to buy, you have a lot of selections on that. Of course, as we say in real estate, there's three things that are important: location, location, location. So it's been an awesome pleasure chatting with you today. I certainly hope that I gave you some food for thought, and you do have a blessed day.
Staff and faculty treated my kids like they were their own.
Shiloh is a place where, your kids can come and be themselves.
The staff is very open to things that the parents have to say.
To enroll your child in Shiloh's Early Learning Academy, call 225-343-4734.
Joining me on today is my spiritual leader, pastor of the Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, Pastor Fred Jeff Smith.
Hi, Kenyatta. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
Doing great.
That's good. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for asking.
Amen. Let's get started.
Yes.
Who is Pastor Fred Jeff?
I am the second-born son of Charles and Winstonia Smith, with an older brother and a younger sister. I am the husband of Demetria Lavelle Jones Smith, who is the Minister of Christian Education here at Shiloh. I am the father of Charles Turnbull Smith II and Miles Gabriel Smith. I am a huge Dallas Cowboys fan. I don't care what anybody has to say about it. And I love the Lord, and we're seeking to find ways at Shiloh to serve Him in a more effective manner every day.
Amen. So you grew up here in Baton Rouge?
Yes.
You did. Let's talk about that. Growing up in Shiloh, what was that like?
Shiloh was a different church when I was a boy. We're in this office, we're part of the 1972 building that was done. My date goes all the way back literally to birth, which would have been 1961. And we were meeting in the old building, which is directly behind this building at 183 South 14th Street. Small stucco building, but a wonderful church filled with spirit-filled people, people who were limited in finances, limited in education, but who always had an aspiration to be and to become, and they passed that aspiration on to their children. I've had the unique privilege of watching this church expand and grow over the 50 years that my father, Charles Turnbull Smith, served as pastor of this church. I've watched it grow not just spiritually and numerically, but also grow organically and grow in its service to this community and to its membership. And I'm just grateful that the Lord allowed me to step in and be a steward here since my father's passing in 2012.
Okay. You stepped into a major role in 2013.
Yes.
you became the pastor of the leader of this flock.
Yes.
And I came to Shiloh in 1998. So from 98 to now, I have seen the church take a total transition in a positive way. Let's talk about some of the things that you've added to Shiloh since becoming a pastor.
Well, I was blessed that Shiloh was a full-time ministry before I got here. I know you asked me about me, but I have to go back and say that over the 50 years that Charles Smith served as pastor of this church experienced monumental growth. The church had a credit union. The church added a daycare, which has now become an early learning center. The church developed a charitable foundation. The church provides housing for people, as well as the normal benevolence assistance that people come across. The church added a second worship experience. When I was a boy, it was Sunday school at 9:30 and worship at 11 o'clock. Now there are 2 worship experiences every Sunday. The church was already on television when I got here. We added a second television experience. The church was already on radio when I got here. We've added live stream, things of that sort. But I was blessed to be able to walk into a situation that was already far more advanced than the typical church in this community. We have simply tried to build in a logical and incremental way upon what foundation was already laid. And we think that we're in the process of becoming what God would have us be. We did little things. First year that we were here, we added screens into the sanctuary, screens upon which we watch you on every Sunday. As you provide our video announcements every Sunday here in worship. We've made alterations to the worship experience. We've expanded our ministry base by adding a minister of social justice issues, and Shiloh has taken a decided position with regard to social justice issues in our community. We think that it's our responsibility to raise those issues both critically and from the standpoint of trying to be a helper in rectifying some of these negative circumstances. So I feel like we're building on the foundation that was laid, but I certainly recognize that we had a great foundation to build upon.
We did. Shiloh has a huge helping hand in the community. You spoke about we provide housing, food, shelter, bill payment, anything that a person needs. Shiloh has it right here. What do you say to someone, these other pastors that would probably say that, oh, Shiloh is just trying to bait members in by offering them money?
No. Well, first of all, we don't have that much money to offer. The misnomer that we are somehow a wealthy church is just that. It's a myth. It's interesting you bring that up because we were just finishing up our podcast, and in the discussion that we had with our guest here, I was making the point that for the most part, African American churches are no different than African American households. Just like you can't go very long without a paycheck, neither can our churches. We need the revenues that we receive on Sunday morning in order to conduct ministry. I think that the difference that may exist from one church to the next is what you prioritize. Charles Smith believed in holistic ministry. He believed in helping the total individual, that yes, we're concerned about your souls, but we also have a concern about your physical needs. We have a concern about your economic needs. We have a concern about your academic needs. And if the church is to be what Christ would have it to be, we have to address all of those concerns. So we prioritize the dollars that the members allow us to manage in such a way as we're able to do the things that we do: scholarship programs, summer enrichment programs, summer camps, things of that sort. But it only works because the membership believes in the holistic ministry that we are seeking to espouse. We're not like some churches that sit on mounds and mounds of money. We need every dollar that we get in order to do the ministry that we do. The difference, again, and forgive me for repeating myself, the difference that I see has to do with priority. I've served other churches, and one of the things that has always been somewhat disheartening to me is that other churches did not share the same concern about the overall needs of the individual as this church has shown over its 50 years plus that Charles Smith was here.
Okay. When you're not in the pulpit, you're not serving others, what are you doing?
Listening to my wife and listening to my children. And now that we have 2 dogs, playing with my dogs. I'm a homebody. I love television. If you ask me anything, I will probably quote to you a television show or a movie. My favorite movie series is The Godfather, parts 1, 2, and 3. I don't know why you all want to diss part 3, but part 3 was almost as good as 1 and 2. I really don't go out a lot. I'm never, even before ministry, I was never a party person. I like video games. Oh yeah. Really? Red Dead Redemption Part 2. I finished that in about 2 weeks. Oh. And yeah, I'm a huge, and I love Madden. I stopped playing NBA 2K because my son was beating me so bad it just got to be frustrating. So I don't even mess with it anymore. But I'm really very much a homebody. I'm a nerd. And I pride myself on being a nerd. Whenever I have the chance to talk to young women in the church or even outside of the church, I tell them all the time, don't overlook the nerds. I know y'all want to be with the cool guy, y'all want to be with the guy with the big chest and the narrow waist and all this other stuff, but the nerds make the best husbands. There, I said it for you.
I'll have to remember that. You spoke on education, and education in Shiloh is a big thing.
Yes, it is.
And everything, as a youth growing up here in Shiloh, and everything that we did, Pastor Charles Smith always emphasized education.
Yes.
So much that I am a scholarship recipient myself. In 2004, I did receive the 4th place scholarship, which did help me further my education along at Southern University. But aside from that, I want everybody to know that my pastor gave me my first shot at being in front of the camera around this time last year. And since then, I've become the video announcer here. And I just wanted to tell you, thank you so much for investing in me, for choosing me to do such a big job.
Well, you do such a wonderful job at it, and people look forward to it Sunday in and Sunday out. With regard to education, you're right. Charles Smith placed a very high priority on education as a whole, Christian education in particular. You mentioned that you're a scholarship recipient. In order to be a scholarship recipient as a member of Shiloh, you had to have a 70% Sunday school or Bible study participation rate. And it's unfortunate that there are children, young people, they don't want to be called children anymore, they're young people who pass through this church every year who do not qualify for the scholarship because they won't make the investment of time into the Christian education component. It's one of the things that I find personally disheartening, and that I think that we as a church need to address and emphasize a little bit more. Not to reduce the requirement, but to get people to recognize the importance of meeting the requirement. It's a shame when we leave thousands of dollars on the table because we did not have a sufficient number of members who met the qualifications. But yeah, Shiloh has always emphasized scholarships. I'm a scholarship recipient too, 1979. And back then, the scholarships totaled $2,000. Now the scholarships total somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000. So God has blessed us to be able to expand and grow the scholarship program. And we look forward to being able to do even greater things in the future.
In the future, speaking of, Shiloh is growing. Where do you see Shiloh? What direction are you steering this church for the future?
Well, when I became pastor in 2013, one of the things that I tried to do was to instill a vision into this congregation. We called it Shiloh 2020 at that time. And it was an emphasis on Christian education, emphasis on evangelism, emphasis on community outreach. We have made some progress in those areas, but as we're now in the year 2019, I can see where we still have a long way to go in certain areas. Shiloh is growing, but the growth that we are experiencing now is a little bit more incremental than the growth that the church experienced in the 90s, at the time that you came. I remember vividly, I would call my father on Sunday evenings and ask him, well, what kind of day did you have today? And he'd say, well, we had 10 to join this morning, we had 20 to join this morning, sometimes we had 30 to join. And Shiloh doesn't have that kind of phenomenal growth taking place anymore. But God is blessing us with new members. God is blessing us with people who have wonderful ideas about where we can go with the church in the future. I do think that there needs to be greater emphasis placed on our part, and specifically on my part, on leading this church more in evangelical ways in order to reach the community. It's not that there aren't lost people out there that need to be reached, it's that we're not doing enough to reach them. And so I take that as a personal challenge that we have to do more in order to reach lost people for Christ.
To reach those lost people and to bring them to safety in Christ, what do you think, or what are some ways that you think that we could possibly do to get them here?
One of the things that I have tried to do is learn more. I call the podcast my continuing education medium. We started the podcast a little bit over a year ago. You've been a guest on our podcast. One of the things that I have tried to do with the podcast is hold interesting conversations with people in this community, not necessarily people who are members of this church, and not necessarily people who are even Christian, but people in this community to learn more about who they are. I'm 57 years old. There's no way for me to fully identify with a 37-year-old or with a 27-year-old, but I can ask questions. And if I listen attentively and if I work hard and pray hard about it, I believe that with the information that we receive just through these conversations that I have with people, we can devise means and methods by which to foster what I call real growth. And I want to make a distinction between real growth and less than real growth. I don't want to characterize it poorly, but there is the phenomenal growth that some churches are having that is based on poor doctrine or no doctrine, based on entertainment, based on music, based on other things beside a solid gospel message that meets the needs of the total person. I call that growth swelling. And there are churches that are swollen, but just like swelling in the human body indicates that there's infection somewhere, there's infection in those churches, and churches that grow that fast often shrink just as fast as they grow because it's not built on a solid foundation. Many of those churches, as I said, are entertainment driven. Some of them are personality driven. If something happens to the personality or if something happens to the level of entertainment, then people find someplace else to go. Now, I do recognize the fact that succeeding generations are less brand loyal than, say, my generation was. You're not willing to stick around forever, and you're not willing to fight. You're not going to come to a church meeting and say, well, we need this, we want that, we want the other. You're just going to go find it someplace else. And we're going to look up one day and you're not going to be here. So I want to do more than just have something that draws you here. I want to do something that holds you here and makes you want to come back. I want to have an open door policy. I want to be able to say to people that you can come in and talk to me. If I'm doing something that you don't like, we can talk about it. Not necessarily saying I'm going to agree with you, but I want the door to be open, and I want us to be able to foster real conversations that can result in strong churches.
And talking about the services, the 8 and 11 o'clock, there's a difference between the two.
Yes.
Let's talk about that difference.
When I came here, Shiloh had 2 Sunday services, one at 8, one at 11. We still do that. We decided that in order to draw a younger audience, we needed to streamline one of the 2 services. At the time that I came here, they pretty much mirrored one another. They were the same service, just in 2 different times. And we decided that we needed to make some minor tweaking. You know, we're not good at monumental change, but we can handle incremental change. We just made 1 or 2 adjustments to streamline the 11 o'clock worship and gear it more toward young people. I fully recognize, not that I'm young anymore, but I don't want to be in church all day. And I don't think anybody else wants to be in church all day either. This idea that we're going to stay here till the Spirit moves. The Spirit moved the moment you got up and came here. So for me, I want to be a good steward of your time. If I'm asking you to come to worship, number 1, we're going to start on time. Number 2, we're going to make sure that the worship is about Jesus and not about anything or anybody else. And number 3, I'm going to get you out of here on time because you want to go watch the Saints game. What to do with your day, whatever it is you want to do. So I think that people value the fact that I appreciate their time. I also think that it helps to draw young people when they see young people. So at the 11 o'clock worship, we put our young adult praise team on display. And they're outstanding singers, and they do a wonderful job. And I have watched the change in how people respond to the praise period now that they know that these are the young people that are going to be leading them in worship. So it's things like that where we have made a conscious effort to make 8 o'clock a more traditional worship experience. Not overly long, but more traditional, and make the 11 o'clock worship a more streamlined and contemporary worship experience. And for the most part, I think people have responded well to that.
Thank you for joining me on today. I look forward to many, many more interviews, and I look forward to being on TV on Sunday as well.
I'm going to see you Sunday morning on the screen.
You will see me Sunday morning, right
Yes,
and early.
ma'am.
Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching this interview. We'll be right back. Now, this is my least favorite part of Connections, leaving you, my viewers. I've enjoyed our afternoon together, and I always look forward to the next episode. In the meantime, be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram, Connections with Kenyatta Collins, and also go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. It's been real. Until next time, have a wonderful day, drink water, and meet me right here on next week for another exciting episode of Connections, where as always, I'll deliver something that I know you'll enjoy. See you next week.